Hi, good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of Entrepreneurship Uncovered, 3 things you ought to know. I am Gabby Luoma, CPA, CGMA, and CEO of Mod Ventures. I will be facilitating and joining in this discussion with Heather Noteboom and controller here at Mod Ventures. Before we get started, let me tell you a little bit about Mod Ventures. Mod Ventures is a virtual accounting and advisory service firm. We have been around since 2004, and we have morphed into Mod Ventures and what it is today. We help entrepreneurs organize, create, and predict their financial futures. Hey, Heather, how are you doing today?
I'm great, Gabby. Thank you for having me.
Great, awesome. I'm so excited that we're going to be talking about remote work today. It seems like that's such a growing discussion within professionals, and it's not just the accounting profession, but it's financial advisors and legal profession. So many people are looking at remote work as an opportunity to really grow in their profession and across territorial boundaries and all kinds of different things. So I think it's going to be a great discussion today about remote work and how you have really dove into that here at Mod.
Yes, it's actually something I'm very passionate about. And, the pandemic totally changed my mindset on remote work. So, I think I agree. It's going to be a great discussion.
Great. Awesome. Okay. So first, before we get started, I'm going to have you tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Sure. So, as Gabby mentioned, my name is Heather Noteboom, and I live in the Mitten State. So, I'm from Michigan. I've been married to my husband, Brian, for 6 years, and we have 2 girls, Ariana, who's 16, and Kendall, who is 3. I have a master's degree in business focused in accounting. I have over 10 years of experience in accounting, and I've been a controller here at Mod for just over a year. In my spare time, I enjoy traveling, enjoying time with friends and family, and reading a good book.
Yeah. So where was your last trip? I know you just got back from vacation. So where did you go?
We just went to St. Martin. So that
Okay.
we were there for a week, and the sun was beautiful and warm. The ocean was a little chilly, but I mean, just being on a beach and not having the 9 to 5 routine that we normally have was great.
Yeah, definitely. Well, in Michigan, right? Michigan
Yes.
constantly snow.
I'm looking at it right now as we speak. I think we've had 3 ice storms in the last 2 weeks. So we came home from paradise and got belted with 6 inches of snow last weekend and 2 ice storms before that. So
Wow.
I'm looking forward to spring.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. So I bet those trips into a tropical paradise are much needed by the time, February hits, right?
Oh yes, especially the calm after year end and Christmas and all that stuff. It's just something to look forward to for us. And it's a trip that we do not take our children on. So a little better.
Even better. Great. Awesome. Well, I'm excited to have this conversation. So let's just dive right in. I think the biggest thing that, we wanted to talk about when it comes to remote work is why it really matters to employers and to employees, and how this subject has just really skyrocketed, especially over the pandemic, and people actually realizing that they can have a different type of lifestyle along with business and work. So I think that this is a growing subject matter, and because we've been remote, gosh, since 2014, we were able to really sail through a lot of the hardships of trying to figure out how to be remote. So what was your work like during the pandemic, Heather? Because it wasn't with Mod.
No, it wasn't. I worked in an office 5 days a week right before the pandemic hit. Once the governor shut down the state of Michigan, then we had to kind of figure out what are we going to do. So most of the employees at the office that I was currently working at, they basically got time off until we figured out stuff. The position that I held, there couldn't be time off. I was, running an engineering firm in Port Huron. So we had to figure out a way to make that feasible. So I began remote work. We figured it out with our IT department, how to get access, how to access, the softwares that we were using from home. I just used my home computer and I logged in. And at first, we were just working minimum hours because we really didn't know what to expect. We didn't know how long it was going to last. We kind of just thought, I think we were told it was a 2-week thing. It's going to take 14 days and everything's going to go back to normal. So we were just doing the bare minimum to keep everything in motion. And I actually ended up being remote for about 2 years.
Wow.
So, yeah, and that was right off of maternity leave. So I
Yeah.
went back from maternity leave in January. March, we got shut down. So I basically was home for, we'll say, almost 3 years. And
Yeah.
so when we got the call to go back into the office, May of that year, I think it was 2019, it was hard. It was
Yeah.
extremely hard to try to juggle everything after being home for so long. And, before the pandemic, I didn't even know there was such thing as remote. I might have heard, here and there that people work from home, but I didn't know that I could do what I'm specialized to do from home. So
Yeah.
that really got my wheels spinning and eventually led me to mod.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's the thing, is that there has been such a shift in, philosophy and understanding what remote work is and how to really run companies remotely. And it's funny because small business owners have done it forever, right? The smallest businesses are the ones that work from home and, know how to really run things from their home office. And it's the bigger companies that have a tough time because they have so many people. So it's change in management style, it's a change in trust. There's a change in technology. So there's a lot of things that companies need to think about. But the biggest thing that I think that we all gathered out of this pandemic is that there is ability for us to work from wherever we want to work, and to really create a different lifestyle than we currently have. And it matters to your employees, and it matters to business owners that want to have work-life balance and try to figure that out. So super important topic, and I'm glad we're talking about it today. So as far as the 3 things we should know about, I think you talked a little bit about this flexible schedule and work environment, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about your thoughts around that?
Yeah, so working from home is definitely a lot more flexible, in my opinion, from being in an office. Obviously, different companies are going to have different policies and procedures, set in place on how flexible the employees can be. But for me, I'm able to get my children off to school. Like before the older one got her license, I was able to drive her to school. She didn't have to ride the bus. We live 5 minutes from school, but she would be the first one on the bus. So she's on the bus for an hour. So like that went away. I don't have to put the younger one in daycare
Mhm.
because I'm home. We choose to just for social aspects. She goes a couple of days a week, but there's flexibility there. Sporting events. My oldest is really big into sports. When I was in the office, there were some games that I would be late to, or I would have to miss because I couldn't get out, or I didn't have enough vacation time to take off for it.
Yeah.
Now I have the flexibility to kind of gauge my working hours, to be able to attend those events, obviously with permission from owners and such. But so there's a huge flexibility when it comes to things like that are important to me. And then even when it comes to like appointments, or health doctor's office and stuff,
Yeah.
stuff like that. It's more flexible.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting in my home office right now. I was able to create my own home office. This used to be what I called our folding clothes room. Like it was just a room that had a countertop that I folded clothes on, and they sat until we took them upstairs. So like it was pretty cool to watch this whole room transpire into my home office, and it is what I want it to be. And you know, I you don't have to dress up every day for work, unless you have a work meeting. So there's that comfort zone.
Yeah.
Um, and then like in between tasks, I might take a 2-minute break to start the laundry or fold it or something like that. So you can, it's I think a positive impact on your work life balance, because before, like I said, I'm in the office, and when you're in the office, you're not getting anything done at home. And then when you get home and your kids have sports and you got to get dinner going, like I was just behind on everything. Well,
Yeah.
working from home kind of gives you that flexibility to kind of get in household chores, throughout your day.
Right.
As you mentioned, working from anywhere. I mean, if you have internet and you have your laptop, who's to say I can't travel to Florida and work from Florida, visit
Right.
my mother-in-law or something. So there is that flexibility too, to where you can, just take your computer with you and
Yeah.
go on vacation or something.
Mhm.
And I think, just having the flexibility aspect, it's a huge positive impact on employees, and it builds that loyalty, which ultimately leads to employee retention. When there's more flexibility, there seems to be less stress, and that's what employees, or at least myself, I thrive in that kind of environment. So of
Yeah.
course I'm going to be loyal to that company that provides that.
Right. Right. Well, I love how you mentioned, that you can get away to do little things, change the laundry out and things like that. Or get up and go for a walk, or, just like take time to care for yourself. I think that's important. We think that if you're sitting in an office, from 9 to 5, that you are completely productive every second of that time. And to be honest, that's not the truth, right? Like your brain, and we're knowledge workers, right? We work with our brains.
Yeah.
We
Yep.
need um, downtime, even if it's a few minutes, to reset and be able to go to the next task. And I think that it's such a myth that if you're sitting in an office 9 to 5, that you're productive the whole time. Um, and I think it's detrimental to believe that, and to think that that's what productivity looks like. You know, Heather, you're extremely accountable for your work, and you have set schedules, and we have calendars, and we have a lot of things to help us to stay on track. But, I would say one of the biggest things, as an employer, is you're really looking for an accountable person who, is okay with, having some structure in place, but at the same time, trusting them to do their jobs. And I think that's a big change for a lot of managers who are used to looking, around the office and see people sitting in their seats. Like you really don't know if they're productive or not 100% of the time.
Yes.
I mean, when I worked in the office, I wasn't productive 100% of the time. There's just no way. You're talking to your coworker, what do they do this weekend? Things like that. We got a lot
Yes.
of work done, but there were times you have to, walk away from projects and talk. So it's really great for that. And so I love that you mentioned kind of that flexible schedule, and having really a culture that allows for, you to have a few minutes here and there as you need it.
Yes, it's definitely good to have that, just resetting your mind after you complete one task and move on to the next.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Absolutely. So the next thing that you mentioned here is the financial savings. So, I mean, I think it's huge for as an employer. We used to have a large office, and then we obviously would have to carry that entire cost. Over the years, when we went remote, we actually started subletting out offices in our space so that we could share office space. So we created our own office share. We didn't, have to go anywhere and ask people to do this. All I had to do was ask my landlord, hey, can I share office space? And they're like, yeah, that's great. So we've been doing this since 2014 and it's worked out great. And we share costs with the other business owners. So we do have a small office, but nobody works there. We capture our mail. We do, occasionally pick up tax documents from, clients will drop off tax documents, but, is not predominantly where we do business or where we work. So tell us a little bit about the financial savings that you see as an employee, Heather.
Yeah, so not just for employers, I am seeing financial savings as well. So I lease vehicles. So I just got a new vehicle, I think October or November. And so I was able to come down on my mileage. So we always bought extra mileage because I drove 50 miles a day to and from work. I don't have that anymore. So I'm saving a ton right there in mileage. We all know the gas prices have been outrageous for the last little bit. So I don't have the enormous expense that I had in fuel anymore. So we kind of mentioned, you can be dressed a little bit more comfy when working from home. I don't have to upkeep that dressy wardrobe anymore. So there's another cost savings. Daycare, if, there's a remote employee who had daycare costs before, they might choose to have their children stay home. So that's another huge cost, because daycare is not cheap by any means.
No.
Um, and just little things like when you worked in the office, you might grab lunch with some coworkers or you might go out afterwards. Like those expenses over time add up. And if you're home, you're usually preparing your own meals. So you're cutting down costs there too. So there are little costs that used to, trickle in that I'm not seeing anymore either. So
Yeah.
it's been a benefit to us for sure. That is for sure.
Right, right. Well, and I love that you mentioned, childcare cost. And, when I first started the business, I had Brooke, who was just a baby. And, I really worked part-time for the first few years and that worked well. But then she got to be like 2 and she was such a handful. So then I found somebody who could, watch her like a couple days a week. And that was like, whew, that was really good for her and me.
Yes, yes, I agree.
So, and I've seen our staff over the years figure it out, and I know that I've had to figure it out from, you know, my children being very, very young, just newborns all the way up into, graduation and now into college. So, there's a lot of changes that happen over a lifetime and with your kids. And I think the biggest benefit is you do get to spend more time with your family. And it may be more chaotic for some people. So I think it does take a special person who can, handle their kids and work. But if you really, really plan it well, and I think that's the thing, you have to plan,
Yes,
you
I
know,
agree.
and
Especially when they're little.
yeah, when they're little, you have to make time to, plan things so that they're, taken care of and you feel like you're being a good parent. And then plan time to be working so that you feel like you're a good employee. And I think that's really important to a lot of us because, you have the mom guilt or maybe the dad guilt too now, but mom guilt was terrible when I first started. It was terrible. It was really hard. So, I think this is a beautiful thing, when, especially accounting. I think accounting is such a great profession, where you can, really have a family and work and feel like you can do both. So yeah, that I think it's great as far as financial savings too. So
Yes, yes, on
all
both
good
ends.
stuff. Well, and then, you're getting into retention and finding the right employees and all those things. And I think that's been a really difficult thing for US employers. And I don't think it's just in some states or not in others, in some cities and not, oh my goodness, like it's really, really tough to
Yeah.
be to, what's the right word for it? Attract
Yes, the
and
hard workers.
retain.
Yep. Mhm.
Yeah. People who really appreciate things. So I think this is definitely an opportunity to dive into a different pool of talent. So Heather, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you see in this realm?
Well, from my personal standpoint, live here in Michigan, and Mod is based out of Arizona. So, if I wanted to work for Mod, and we were in the office setting, that would not work. I would have to relocate or, choose another avenue. So, it definitely opens that wider range area to employees looking for work, and also to employers who are trying to attract employees, because you're not set on a geographical location that is within, driving distance of your home anymore. Like, you can work from anywhere, really, as long as, you have that good stable internet connection, and the employer is okay with you living out of state or whatever the
Yeah.
case may be. So it definitely does not limit for either the employee or the employer anymore when you have the remote options. It just
Yeah.
opens the door to much greater opportunities out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and I love how you mentioned here the increased diversity of the firm with no limits on area. I think too, you're looking for people who have different experiences in life. And I think you do get more diverse experiences by going outside of, your local talent pool, because the way of the world now is that we're basically global. We're a global world, right? A global economy. And so what happens in other countries affect us too. And so, we get a broader understanding of what's happening in multiple areas. And I think that's really pretty cool. Just because I'm always interested in what other people are doing. It's
Yeah.
just, maybe I'm nosy. I don't know. But I love that. So and then you also hit on no relocation costs. There's a lot of people who are really happy where they're living, and they don't
Yeah.
want to, necessarily move to get a new job. And then there are some people who are living in we've had lots of Tucson employees actually move to be closer to family. So those staff don't have to necessarily, they don't have to quit to move
Yeah,
to be closer
exactly.
to
Hmm.
family. So, you can really prioritize your life, I think, a little bit better when it's not set on a specific location. So I think that really opens up to being very employee centric, and again, help with retention and growth within your firm or your company. So awesome. Well, I think we are starting to come to a close, but we really wanted to focus on, the three top things that you really needed to think about if you're thinking about going remote. And I think we talked about, the flexible schedule, having greater flexibility for your staff and your employees, um, being able to manage work-life balance a little bit better and participate in your family's ongoings. We talked about your financial savings and how employees can save on, all the day-to-day expenses that they normally would have to incur. And then employers, how you can really remove some of your overhead um, off of your income statement, and you know really invest back into your employees. And that's what we do. We spend more on training and having those types of growth conversations instead of really focused on paying for a big office building. I think that's the value for us. Invest in our people. And then the pool of talent, not being limited to an area, and looking at folks that are more experts in their fields. Another great opportunity. You're not limited to just the expertise in like your town. It definitely increases your diversity of thought and experience. I think that's great. And relocation again is not something that you have to really focus on as an employer. I think those are great points. And again, if you have any questions, we are really the experts in remote work. We figured a lot of things out, and we hope to bring you more information on like probably the daily tools and things that you would use. But in general, I think you have to be aware of what the opportunities are before you take that next step. Heather, is there any last thoughts that you have regarding this topic?
I think it's definitely something that employers or employees should look into. I think before the pandemic, it was probably few and far between that worked remote, or some that we weren't even really aware of. And then when the pandemic hit, everyone had to figure it out, and they figured out how to be productive from home. And I know many firms here in Michigan, they have that flex schedule now where the employees are working home a couple days a week and in the office a couple days a week, or even months, even, just a couple days a month. So I think, not every, but a lot of business owners found that their employees could be just as productive or more productive from working from home. And they have found a way to add that perk, to their handbook. And I think it's a great feature. Me as a mom, I don't ever see myself going back to an office. It has been a very great and positive change for me and my family. I struggled very, very hard at the beginning when I had to go back to the office. So this has been a blessing to me. And, not every day is easy with a
Right.
toddler. But as Gabby mentioned, you figure it out. I mean, just like you figure out everything else with parenthood, you figure it out, So it's definitely a blessing in disguise for me and my family to work from home. And, I would encourage, if anyone, employer, employee who, is struggling to be at an office, or, wants some more flexibility in that work-life balance, then, remote working is probably something worth looking into.
Definitely. All right. Well, thank you, Heather, so much for joining us today. And if you guys have any questions or want to get a hold of us at modventures llc.com, please do so. You can email us here at info@modventuresllc. Here is a nice little scanner. I forget what you call these doohickeys, these scanner things. Or you can give us a call. We'd love to chat with you about remote work. All right, you guys, have a great day, and we'll see you next time.